Hours. I've officially sunk over 200 hours into Evolve, and to be honest, I can't explain why. No other game this year has stolen that much life force from my internal clock, and deep down, I know it's only my fault to blame. Blazing off the success of Left 4 Dead, Turtle Rock Studios is back and this time presents us the consumer with Evolve, a competitive asymmetric first-person shooter that pits 4 heavily armed hunters against one deadly ever-growing monster. The question though is, can Evolve evolve the multiplayer gaming scene into something that isn't like the rest and become a product that is better than the best? Games in some ways are becoming a whole lot smaller, production costs are rising, and so more compact yet aspiringly creative concepts begin to leave larger studio doors. Evolve, like the developer's previous survival FPS, attempts to bring the gaming community together through team-based tactics, but instead trades its battle against the zombie hordes for an interplanetary conflict by opposing giant meaty player-controlled monsters. The idea follows a very Godzilla-like theme of armed humans fighting an out-of-this-world threat. The story puts players in the boots of 12 individual hunters that must unite in saving the colony world known as Shear. The reason? An invasion by these story-tall monsters that seek to wipe out the planet within 5 days. Unless the hunters can hold them back.
5 days of battle and glory. Markov here thinks he's on vacation.
5 days spraying fire, melting faces. This ain't a vacation. It's fucking paradise.
Across 2 game preferences, you select one of these 12 hunters, each separating into categories of 4 different class types. The assault, the medic, the support, and finally the trapper build up this team as they go out on hunting matches of up to 20 minutes against a player-controlled force of nature. The assault plays out as a heavy-hitting tank, equipped with 2 weapons, a special ability, and his own personal shield. The medic focuses on healing the team with different vivifying weapons, like a med gun or a character with a revive glove, along with being able to occasionally zap close teammates with an AoE healing burst. The support protects the team or amplifies them with continuous damage capabilities, as well as shrouding them in its class ability cloaking device. And finally the trapper that locates the monster, catches it within their arena-like dome, and attempts to keep it at bay as the team dishes out the pain. This combines to create a heavily team-based outing, where the smallest error could cost the whole hunt, but through communication and each player understanding and utilising their roles to their full potential, mind you, helps achieve an incredibly rewarding cooperative experience.
Was well, monster, but men prove strong.
The monster, on the other hand, has no team apart from itself, starting out as one of 3 different monsters that must evade the hunters, feed on the surrounding wildlife, and grow to become the king of the jungle through 3 evolution stages of power. The entire affair is a constant cat and mouse dynamic that eventually changes into a hunter that becomes the hunted scenario. This is done first via Evolve's Evacuation campaign, where as stated, the hunter team must fight off the monster across an always changing 5-match campaign to save the colonists. The campaign does this by presenting a clever environment-changing reward system, where depending on who wins the hunt, achieves some form of benefit during the next day. This is presented by an opening cutscene and through victory, a closing cutscene of game-changing proportions to either the hunters or the monster. The amount of diversity is large, and this is supplemented with some really cool cinematics that translate to future levels, like in a potential victory, where the hunters acquire environment patrolling drones, or in another situation, the destruction of an aviary complex, with flesh-eating winged raptors scattering the next map waiting to feed on the hunter team's faces. To make the losing side feel less like a loser is a stat buff that balances throughout the campaign's constant victories and losses. Each team gets buffed with damage upgrades for losing out on the scenario reward, and this actually can make things a little lopsided, such as the monster on a losing streak two-shotting players that have worked well to gain the achievements from previous matches. The conclusion to the campaign is a painfully flip-flop cutscene, where the hunters successfully hold back the monsters, or the monsters overwhelm the hunters. But that's it. There is no story progression, no world building or lore that helps the player base care for these characters that deserve to be fleshed out in a not so violent way. Honestly, story to Evolve comes off as somewhat of an afterthought that is saved for pre-match dropship diving per match, where the hunters banter among themselves before embarking on a hunt.
Markov, what kind of suit is that? Is that a battle suit or what?
Salge.
Did you just tell me to fuck off in Martian?
It's a fun idea that gets incredibly old by the very small amount of conversation combinations, and hearing Lazarus' desire to revive a monster over and over again can become very stale. It is saddening because the hunters and monsters all are so nicely designed, and these individual entities all look like they are ready to gush major laverings of backstory, but they don't, and that is the start of Evolve's set of major flaws. The campaign, for instance, is fun, and seeing you accumulate large smatters of experience through saved colonists gives you a feeling of progressive drive, but the rewards feel too small, and while it can be taken on via PvP or hunter-focused co-op, it just doesn't breadcrumb you enough to try it over and over again, even with the level-changing cutscenes. Evacuation also introduces a selection of player-voted inner modes, like Rescue, where the hunters must recover and extract scattered survivors, or Nest, a mode focused on the monster who is tasked with defending giant eggs or unleashing them on the hunters with an additional monster minion inside them. The problem is that these modes are greatly overshadowed by the standard hunt mode, and this means that matches become an affair of sameness over and over again. The concepts are there, and believe me, they are great, but they are few and far between, and it only adds fuel to the fire that Evolve has little to offer in terms of staying power. This is taken further with the very unrewarding character progression system. See, when playing a character or monster, you are given personal goals for using each character's weapons and gadgets. The more you use them, the more powerful the character gets, but the customization incentive is painfully MIA in provoking players to continue. Maxing out a character ultimately concludes with you receiving one unique skin. But what about the previous stages? Where are the extra aesthetic rewards? Sadly, they are saved for the irksome amount of paid DLC that should have been integrated into continuous play incentives.
This is not how I thought my career would go. Not complaining, just wow.
Once you level up, be it your personal profile level in achieving more stat-based perks or leveling out your character, there is just nothing to keep you going apart from the possible always luring need to hunt for nothing. Evolve just doesn't reward for dedication, and instead rises up as a DLC platform with questionable prices. The justification might be there if the original game had the content to back it up, or even the polish, but this is a game with other priorities and other intentions, which leave us to question where the industry is actually going. Evolve is, and after months of release, a rather unfinished game. Rendering and framerate issues plague the console versions, matches themselves suffer from numerous bugs like falling through the world map or hunter bodies vanishing entirely before they can be revived. Visual polish is also an unusual problem, like unfinished weapon models, e.g. the clip-on Hyde's Gatling gun, odd ragdoll effects, disappearing environment assets, and many, many more. Gameplay bugs run amok too, with certain monsters running rampantly undefeated and unchecked by the developer QA body, and this leaves the game at times in incredibly frustrating states of imbalance for overwhelming long periods of time. It doesn't help that Evolve is very against the pick up and play aspect of many multiplayer games lately. Playing with random players can become a teeth-grinding endeavour, and victory generally goes to the most coordinated teams. Again, this is another section lacking in something, because the learning curve and punishment for mid-game failure is just too great for games filled with random players. If you have friends to play with, then do so, but if not, then maybe stay away. You would think that Evolve solo mode may make up for it, but sadly the AI is questionable at best. Daisy, an accompanying Trapjaw to character Maggie, wonders the field are plenty not reviving teammates when she should, or AI monsters that either get stuck in an animation loop or dive in the stage 1 period makes lone gamers out of a challenge when it comes to the game's single player options. Evolve can be a beautiful game though. Its lush environments, be it the rocky plains or jungle swamps of Sheer, are an immersive sight to behold, and have been developed to be quite fun playgrounds for the hunt. Scattered around the maps are clumps of different wildlife for the monster to eat, and sure, while not bursted in wild selections depending on the level or climate, still gives an outside challenge from simply hunting the monster on an empty field. Rare wildlife known as albinos appear occasionally too, and these uncommon variations enable pickable perks based on the species, like increased damage output from sloths or a reload speed upgrade from mammoth birds. The monsters and hunters themselves are all beautifully crafted upon selection, and seeing Evolve's free monsters grow into bigger and deadly versions of themselves is always smirk-inducing to the players wielding them. The hunters are adorned with visual love too, and all feel as mentioned like they have some kind of story to tell. Hyde, the face-melting heavy, strikes personality-based dominance with his arm-mounted flamethrower, and passion for melting faces, while Bucket, the ship's pilot, seeps combined personality traits of C-3PO and Iron Man's Jarvis.
Hell of a change from your days as a marshal, huh, Bucket?
Not quite. This is still a manhunt, just with a substantially more dangerous man.
Evolve may not have the quality of AAA greats, but its ability to allow you to jump in and out of games shows that the FPS genre has something to benefit from these types of simple setup concepts, originating on mobile devices. You can easily sit down, play a match and walk away without any need for a deeper thought, and it makes the gameplay, especially with friends, all the more desirable no matter its shortcomings. All in all, Evolve is a game sitting on immense untapped potential. It has the characters, the creatures, the monsters and the world to build upon to become something great, yet suffers from sloppy design decisions and polish that makes the current state of its existence rather questionable. Proxy Playthroughs gives Evolve a silver muffin, but what do you think of Evolve? Proxy would love to know. But until next time, ciao.